right. Well, nice to be with you guys. I'll give a really quick intro of who I am and why we're doing this, and then we'll dive in. And I have some good questions based on what I saw on your LinkedIn profile too. So, Betsy Reed, CRO and co-founder of CloudWerx. So, formed the company about 2.5 years ago with Jason Geis, our other co-founder, and he's our CEO. With the mission to be the best technical consulting firm focused on Google Cloud Platform. Since then, we became a workspace partner and so on, but really to deliver 11 out of 10 experience to our customers that are using Google Cloud and help you guys answer some basic questions, but then evolve in your cloud journey, right? Is your infrastructure set up properly? Can you scale? Are you cost optimized? Are you secure? Those things that are really important to make sure that you're set up for success as you grow. So in that sense, I wanted to connect with kind of the founders or leaders of a lot of our key customer and key accounts and understand your story, your background, the inception of your vision for the future, and then help support those growth goals. So that's the mission. So I'll dive in, and I would love to just get a quick intro from you guys, respectively, what are your roles at the organization as co-founders? And then we'll just roll into some questions.
I'm Pete Fishman. I go by Fish. And I am the co-founder and CEO at the company.
Awesome.
Dan Silberman. I'm the founder and CTO. I go by Dan.
So Mozart Data. Making data accessible, even if you're not a tech person, even if you're not an engineer, that's the mission. Tell me more about that. What was, if there was a moment, but what was that moment when you're like, I see what's happening in the world and there's a problem, there's a gap. We want to create a solution. Talk about that for me.
Sure. So, Dan and I have been working in the data space for decades, and we've both had a long career at a lot of different stops. And at each of those places, we've been implementing a data stack in order to make data effective at those companies. And that data stack, for the most part, looks the same. Over and over again, we were bringing a similar set of tools to those companies. Sometimes we build them, sometimes we buy them. And ultimately, we wanted to make that stack available to a larger audience. So typically, to get up and running with your data infrastructure, you need to hire someone like Dan. And we feel like the modern tooling has come so far in terms of empowering both technical and non-technical users, but the challenge of sort of just getting started still sort of persists, and we wanted to solve that in the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Dan, do you have anything to add on that? Or
I would just say that what Mozart is doing is somewhat analogous to what GCP did. Technology every year, if you're always building on what people last year or the last few years have made really easy. So now we don't ever think about managing hardware, or we're built on App Engine, so we don't even really have to think about load balancing across different servers and things like that. That's now been made easy, and we're kind of basically trying to take for data. We want to say, hey, managing a bunch of data warehouses, doing the database administration stuff and managing users, we want to try to make that easy so that our customers can focus on the hard, unique parts, which is figuring out how to get value out of their data.
Absolutely. Talk to me about Mozart. Who came up with the idea? What's behind it?
I'll take the first swing at this, and this is a brag. I am the person that came up with the name. In fact, Dan and I had different perspectives at the time. Dan and I have been friends for over 20 years, but this was definitely one of our bigger fights, which was trying to come up with the name of this one. And we had sort of names that were sort of plays on different things with pipelining and with music and orchestration and harmony, a beautiful symphony, composing your tables, all the cliches, all these terrible puns I was really a big proponent of, and I ultimately won the argument.
Our actual production Google Cloud project is called Mario Data. Eventually, worried about trademark issues, so the name still exists in some of our code, but it is not our actual name.
And how many employees do you guys have now?
We're 25 people.
Wow, wonderful. So are you distributed? Do you have an office space? Obviously, Pete or Fish, you're in you're in the office space in San Francisco. Is that kind of your hub where most people come into?
10 of us are in the Bay Area. Dan's in Oakland. I'm in San Francisco. So we have sort of a sort of hybrid approach. Most people work at home, but we do have office space in San Francisco and in Denver that people sometimes come into.
So talk to me a little bit about like what makes you guys unique in this space. What are the things that you believe Mozart Data brings to the table in terms of differentiators or that je ne sais quoi that sets you above or would have them say, no, this is the right fit for me?
I think the key to what we do is we really try to make everything easier to use than any other tool, easier to do than has ever been available before. One of our key design principles is really smart defaults with flexibility. So we don't want to take any of the power away of doing it in a more hardcore way. But we try to make kind of like what you're probably going to want to do, the default or really easy. Sort of like how Pete was describing the genesis of the company. We've built similar tools in companies before. But when you're doing that, when you're building something for, the 5 data analysts sitting next to you, you can't invest in like front-end engineers and like designers to really make things as easy to use as possible. But now that we're building it for lots of companies, we can invest in that and have the interface be, drop downs and buttons and things like that, rather than necessarily like, write this YAML just like so. And you got to get it exactly right or it's not going to work.
I think like many products, I think the unique value proposition is we solve a handful of specific problems, namely getting your data infrastructure. We solve it really, 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 really well. So we want teams to do what they're uniquely good at, which is to understand their business and to derive insights about their business and not to spend hours and hours and hours, if not weeks or months. I mean, we've seen some companies even spend years trying to spin up the type of infrastructure that will support that.
And I think one really nice benefit that I don't think we foresaw at the beginning, since we can kind of make this easier to do than ever before, it's opened it up to more people than like a lot of our customers are not necessarily, they don't necessarily have data in their name. We were thinking originally, we're kind of built, our product is automating me for people like Pete, which is certainly the case, but a lot of our customers are not data analysts, not data scientists. They're just data savvy, growth people or marketing people or sales people who now have access to like similar tools that you used to have to be a data engineer or maybe a data analyst to have access to.
That's great. And, in terms of just that accessibility or really using software and technology for purposes that it makes it takes it out of just like the tech team and it puts it into the hands of other folks that can use that in the day-to-day to make decisions and drive business decisions. It's, I think just like elevates the entire organization who's using the product. To that end, when you engage with a customer and they come to you or you pursue them, either way, and they say, well, I'm struggling with this challenge. Is there any consultative aspect of like, here's how you would use the product and here's some additional things you should be thinking about? Is there some digging that goes on in terms of, how they're going to leverage it to the fullest capacity or some of those additional data sources they may need to get access to in order to get the full picture? Tell me about some of the value add or like the services that might come along with the product.
I would say 100%. I mean, for one, I think we are pretty honest as just an organization that like if Mozart is not right for you, we'll say, here's what actually we think you should do. So we do generally lead with like, what are the problems? For some reason you requested a demo for a data product. What are you hoping to get out of this? What is the problem that you have? What are some questions that you want answered? We also, I think we have a world-class team of analysts that is our support team and part of our sales team. So we want to make sure that you get to success with the product. When it's a relatively complex product, like I said, we try to make everything easy to use, but still we're talking about data, and there's a lot of different things you can do with it. So it's relatively complex. So we will definitely help our customers try to get to success, to understand the platform and what they can do with it. And if the first sales call clarifies, this is a dashboard they really wish they had, or this is a manual workflow that they really wish was automated, like very good usual opportunity for the proof of concept to be like, okay, well, we will work with you, we'll build that, and through that you will see Mozart can solve your problem, and you'll learn kind of how to solve the second problem yourself.
That's excellent. I do think it's a balance, right, between product and then service and how much you do. But I think to the extent that you can support your customers, number one, and I totally agree from the get-go, if you can help them to buy you correctly, right? And sometimes that answer is like, don't. Yeah. And you'll win a referral for life, right? That way versus somebody that came on board and used the product, had a bad experience. So very, very much supportive of that and can align with that methodology. So we're coming up on our last 5 minutes, you guys, and I have some fun questions I want to ask, digging into your backgrounds a little bit. First, I want to know, how did you meet? So 20 years, friends or colleagues or whatever you want to call it, but how did you guys meet? And tell me about that kind of the first interaction.
Sure. So Dan and I met in college. Dan's best friend from high school was my college roommate. And Dan came down for a visit to Duke, and we caught a basketball game together. Sadly, it was a Duke loss.
Yeah.
Awesome. And did you from the beginning kind of know, hey, there's something here, like I like the energy, I feel like we could collaborate and create something great, or was it just kind of in the beginning of friendship?
Definitely no professional relationship.
I hope you don't mind me sharing this. The second day that we ever knew each other was Pete and some of his college buddies' case day, where they all tried to drink a full case of beer in a day. So yeah, wasn't exactly thinking like, oh, this need to start a business with this guy someday.
I love it. That's great. So the last thing I have to know about bacon hot sauce. What is bacon hot sauce? Because I read that and those are two of my favorite things in the world. So I'm like, tell me more about this company, venture, what's bacon hot sauce?
Dan?
It's a business that we started 12 years ago now. Similar to how Mozart Data started, we were kind of, let's brainstorm a bunch of ideas and see what the best one is. And this was the best one at the time. I think it started with hot sauce of the month, subscriptions, which didn't exist at the time. And now there are multiple billion-dollar companies that do that. But we threw that out and pivoted to bacon-flavored hot sauce.
Is it still in production? Is your bacon hot sauce available? Where do I go to buy it?
Bacon hot sauce still available, still in production. Dan and I actually sold the company 3 months before starting Mozart Data.
Take my word for it. I'm going to buy some bacon flavored hot sauce. I'm going to let you guys know about it. I know it. I don't know if you still benefit from it or not, but it's for my edification. If you say it's good, I got to try it.
Much like our advocation of Mozart Data, we advocate for bacon hot sauce on solely the grounds of we think it's the right choice. So we would tell you otherwise.
Got it. I love it. Well, you guys, this has been awesome. I appreciate you spending time sharing more about Mozart. You guys personally, super charismatic folks, and we love what you're doing. We love being partnered with you. And if anything else comes up in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me.
Appreciate it. It was fun.
Yes. Thanks, you guys. Have a good one.